Did you know that in 2017, an estimated $410 billion were given by Americans, foundations, and corporations to U.S. charities? Many of those donations were made on an individual level. And you've probably heard how giving not only benefits the recipients, but the giver. However, what do you do when you're in debt? How do you fit in giving with your budget? Should you at all? Today, we're going to talk about how you can give while getting out of debt. Welcome to the Couple Money Podcast, where we're focused on helping spouses get on the same page, dump their debt faster, and get on the path to financial freedom together. Support for this podcast comes from 5 Days to 5K course. A big headache for many couples in the community is they know what they need to do. They need to knock down this debt or save up for a big goal. The question is, where does this money come from? Budget's tight. So I designed a free week-long course that will show you step-by-step how to find, save, and make some extra money. And it's broken down into manageable chunks because I know we are all busy. You can sign up at couplemoney.com/5K. Next week, we are going to do a community mailbag episode again, but this question deserves a show of its own. Should you still give when you're in debt? If so, how do you fit it in? I think this is a fantastic question, and it's really reflective of the community we've built up, because this is more than money. Many of you have told me about other things that you do besides, of course, take care of the bills and paying down debt. You're volunteering either at your kid's school, in the local community, maybe donating to a national organization. There are things that matter to you besides just taking care of the bills and paying off the credit cards and so forth. And so when people ask this question, immediately I see two things that jump out at me. One, they have a generous spirit. They want to fit in giving as a part of their routine. Second, their current budget isn't working for them. But what if I told you there's a way that you can take care of the essentials, make progress on paying off your debts, and still give? Today, certified financial educational instructor and the Money Speakeasy founder, Wilson Muscadin, is here to discuss how you can do that. In this episode, we're going to get into why we struggle with money, how to balance everything out, a counterintuitive way to think about how you budget, and how giving can help you be wiser with your money. Let's get started. Before we get into the tactics and strategies of giving and how that fits into your budget, I think we need to acknowledge that money is more than just the numbers. Somehow, when we create our budget, there's this emotional component that comes around with it. Wilson points out when he meets with clients, he has a certain exercise that he does that really reveals that.
Recognize that money is very emotional and very personal. When I speak, I often do this exercise where I give somebody a blank sheet of paper and ask them to rip it in half. Mm-hmm. And then I'll hand them a $20 bill and ask them to rip it in half. And then there's this pause, this moment of like, wait, what do you ask? No, I don't want to do that. Yeah. And that's my sort of visual way of showing people that there is an emotional element to this money. We have a natural tendency to want to, this piece of paper is different from this piece of paper, right? And I don't want to rip this. So there's a emotional and behavioral element to money that we have to recognize.
And those emotions that we have with money carry into our budget. And there are so many different ways that you can create one, but there are three main goals to budgets. One is to take care of the essential bills. 2, building some financial stability, or if you're out of debt, start accumulating wealth in the long term. And then 3, to have some money now that you can have some fun with. And when your budget is out of balance, you could usually tell because you're very stressed out. You feel overwhelmed with what's going on. So finding that balance and prioritizing your money is something that can make a huge difference. If you too feel like giving is a priority for you, then how do you put that into your finances? Wilson told me a system that he uses that's made a huge difference for him and his wife, and that he advises his clients to try out.
With the spending formula to win with money, what my wife and I do, and what I talk about with my clients, is it's really simple, but that doesn't mean that it's easy, is give first, save second, and spend third, right? So my budget is based upon that principle of give first, save second, and spend third. And one of the things you'll note about that is that it's the exact opposite of what most people do.
Yeah.
Right? And so, much of I think 3/4 of the population is living paycheck to paycheck. So we have to do the opposite of what most people do. And most people spend first, right? If there's anything left over, they might save some. And if there's anything left over after that, then they might give some. And I want people to do the exact opposite. But giving first, what happens with that is that it fights our natural impulse. So my wife and I, we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And my 3-year-old, one of his first words was mine, M-I-N-E, right? And so we have a natural impulse. Like if we have something, it's ours, right? And so giving actually fights our natural impulse, but it also makes us a better financial manager. So the example I give is if you give somebody, like we've all had the experience of taking out $100 from an ATM, for example. Yeah. And 2 or 3 days later, there's $10 left. We have no idea what happened with that. But if we flipped it and we said, you got the $100, I want you to give $5 or $10 first, we become much better financial managers with the $90 to $95 remaining. And so that's why I want people to give first to give first in that regard. So in terms of the budget, my budget is based on that. But again, money is very personal and very emotional. So the dollar amount or the percentage that you use is totally up to you in terms of your personal values, your financial situation, and your goals. But thinking about money in that context, in that frame, is much more helpful to people in terms of how to organize their finances and organize their budget.
Like Wilson mentioned, it might be simple, but it's not always easy. We've seen this firsthand with our own finances, whether it's paying off debt, saving for a vacation, house down payment, or contributing more towards retirement. We initially see what we have left over in our budget to give or to save or to invest and feel like it's not enough. But when we flipped it, when we said, okay, we want to achieve this goal, this is the time frame we're looking at, this is the amount we need to do, and we put that on as a bill, whether it's transferring over to savings, whether it's making a payment or contributing to another account. By putting that into the budget, baking it in and making it automatic, we have been able to reach our goals faster. And I completely agree with Wilson. When you come up with your goals and your finances, this is a decision that the two of you make. So I'm not going to tell you a percentage or a hard and fast rule about what to save or what to spend, but do agree on the amount that you're both happy and comfortable with. And on that note, if you feel like your finances are really tight and you can't contribute more financially to your organization, there are other ways that you can be generous and helpful to the causes and charities that matter most to you.
Again, your financial situation is personal, and you as a couple have to determine what level that you want to give at. But giving doesn't necessarily always have to be just financial. Right? There are different ways to give. If you're, whether it's your church or local organization, like oftentimes they want bodies, like they want your time and talent. And so your time, I think time is invaluable, right? You can't get that back. And so, so if you're giving in very small amounts or not giving as much as you would like, you can think about other ways to give. I'm sure, if you think about, for example, your church, if you're a Sunday school teacher or you're working in the nursery, if they had to pay somebody to do that, they would probably be paying more than you would be giving on a weekly or monthly basis, right? And so there are plenty of ways to give. And in fact, from a practical standpoint, one of the other reasons to give first is that social science research has shown us that giving actually makes us happier. Right. So let's say you're having a really bad day or you're feeling a little down. The way to turn that around is not retail therapy. The way to turn that around is volunteering and helping others. And that actually makes you feel better personally than retail therapy or spending on yourself.
Before we close up, I want to focus on some key takeaways I got from chatting with Wilson. The first is make your budget reflect your values. Yes, take care of the essentials, and we will come up with a plan to pay off that debt if you're in debt. But after taking care of those crucial things, make sure that what's included in your budget matters to you. And we all change, so make sure that you review your budget occasionally. Do you still feel the same way? This actually will help you not only to pay down debt, or if you're giving, give more, but it's actually helping you to stay on budget, because this is not something that you have to do. It's something that you want to do. And you put a plan with your finances there. The second is giving is a joyful thing. Please make sure that when you're giving, this is not because you feel like you have to or you're being guilted into it. This is something that the two of you have discussed about things that matter to you. And I just want to make a side note on this. Sometimes it happens with couples. One of you is definitely very generous spirit, but you use giving as an excuse to break your budget. This is not a good thing. Not only are you hurting your finances, you're actually discouraging your spouse and leaving a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to giving. So come up with a plan together and stick with it. And it leads to the third one, which is there are more ways to give than just money. Yes, a lot of organizations do need help with finances to take care of things, but more importantly, volunteering your time is a fantastic and intimate way to give. You can use your talents to help causes that matter most to you. I know this is a very personal discussion, not so much numbers-based, but values-based. I'd love to get into this more. If you want to chat with me and some others in the community, please join us over at Thriving Families on Facebook. It's a free, private, and positive community where we're helping each other out. Just head over to couplemoney.com/FB. I hope to see you there. Special thanks to Wilson for being a part of the show. If you'd like to learn more about him, his story, or perhaps work with Wilson with his Partners in Wealth course, please visit the Money Speakeasy. As always, I'll have all the resources we mentioned today, plus some extras, over in the show notes at Couple Money. And next week, we're opening the community mailbag again. So send in your questions now. Email me if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out that episode. Our theme song was written and performed by Gentle Regime. Additional music by Lee Rosefair. And finally, and most importantly, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening and sharing your favorite episodes. I'm trying to make money not be a taboo topic in a relationship. I don't want it to be a source of tension, but really a way for you guys to work together on your goals. So I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic week. Take care.